So, Mike, as we were talking, you grew up basically around real estate your whole life.
Yes.
You think that gives you an edge up?
Yeah, I mean, Maria, I would say that it really gave me an advantage, which I recognize because I had a resource in that my dad was doing this, been doing this for 40 years, and he knows a lot. He's seen a lot. He has a lot of experience. And I really learned a lot of hands on knowledge from him that you don't get from a textbook or from a class. Um, you get day to day experience, which, and also his connections from being in the business for so long also helps.
Absolutely. Your net worth is tied to your network
Yeah, absolutely.
most of the time. So, your father helped you along with learning the ropes.
I was always around him. I would go to things with him. As I said, it would be, take your kid to work day, but I would always be around them at work. So it was no different day for me. It was,
Open houses, listing
I would take
appointments.
him appointments, go look at properties with him, go in the office, play around at the time years ago on a typewriter when they used to, write contracts on a typewriter. Um, and just kind of be acclimated to the people in the business and learn it, from him firsthand.
And you've been at the same spot for a long time, right?
So we took over the company in 1986, and we joined Century 21 at that point. So we've been here for 37 years.
Wow. And
Yeah,
a great location right there on Passyunk Ave.
right on the heart of East Passyunk Avenue, Restaurant Row, and some of the best restaurant shopping and services in the city.
Absolutely. It really has grown the area over the last decade or so. There's always a nice area, but really it's very, I'd say, a bustling avenue.
Yeah, and the neighborhood that has grown around it is directly tied to the corridor of East Passyunk Avenue. So the neighborhood really embraces our businesses here. And in addition to being an agent and owning the company with him, I'm the chair of the board of the Business Improvement District here along East Passyunk Avenue. So
Oh, that's fantastic.
yeah,
To do that, Mike. That's awesome. It's a shame that South Street has been unable to figure this out.
and they have a bid just much bigger than ours, and they've been working through trying to figure out how to navigate post COVID, getting a resurgence of businesses and people to South Street.
East abroad, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely been difficult for that part of the city over
Yeah,
there for lots of reasons, right?
there's a lot of
Commercial real estate and
and people wanting to make the investment into opening businesses or expanding businesses and moving them here. We have a lot of social issues, economic issues, and political problems, in my opinion, that kind of don't help jolt small businesses. Here in the city of Philadelphia, the city doesn't make it easy to run a business here. It's nearly impossible, and to be a small business, you have a lot of red tape you have to get around too. So
no, it definitely is not. They definitely don't make it easy.
no,
That's for sure.
no.
So tell me, you've now been in the business a decade, right out of, right out of college. And what are some of the lessons that you learned lately during a little bit more of a challenging time than the last 10 years have been?
Yeah, I mean, we saw a boom. It knew that boom was going to end eventually, right? It wasn't going to stay forever. We knew that 3% interest rates were not going to be the norm forever; that they would go up eventually. Um, but my advice to agents and people in this industry is that, again, I guess going back to the theme here is staying diligent and continuing to network, continuing to work referrals, people that you've done business with, family and friends. That group of people really is how you make it through these times where not everybody's buying homes like it was. But at the end of the day, people still need houses, regardless of the state of the economy, regardless of where interest rates fall. So if you continue to just chalk it up and work your network of people, you're going to make it through just fine. That's how I've done it. I mean, I always joke, I give my secret away, but the way I started in this business was I did a lot of rentals, And, we do a lot of rentals and property management. And learning that to me taught me not only the relationship skills, but the paperwork, right? Yes, we talk about a sales contract is 14 pages, a lease is 7. It's a much bigger decision, but you kind of learn the basis of the paperwork, and you learn to meet people, and eventually those tenants become buyers and those landlords become sellers, or they become buyers. The people that you rent at places maybe rent bigger places, or they eventually buy something and then they sell it. So you're creating a chain network of clients, not only now in the present but eventually in the future. And that's how I really believe, most of this business is. It's a referral, word of mouth based business. And people are going to say, I want to call Maria Quattrone because so and so told me to call her. I want to call Michael and Michael at Forrester Real Estate because so and so had a great relationship and did a great business with them. It's really about kind of finding your niche and finding your place in the market. And as we see with the downturn, you're going to see a lot of people exit the business that maybe came in part time and we're not really committed to this in the long haul. And there's going to be more market share for the people that stay in it.
There's a lot of challenges up against the real estate industry right now, not only just rates, but as well as lots of other things that are going on, which I really don't want to get too deep into here today since there
Yeah,
are active lawsuits currently.
yeah,
But there's definitely challenge time. But I think at the end of the day, you have to know what your worth is and
yeah.
believe in yourself.
I always say, if you go in to a listing appointment, you go to, meet a potential buyer for the first time, and you know what your worth is. If a seller wants to negotiate and beat you up on a commission or whatever, or doesn't want to take your recommendations, right? If you walked into Ferrari and tried to beat up the salesperson at Ferrari, I mean, it's kind of a cliche thing to say, but they're not going to really want to listen to you too much, right? They're going to say, okay, if you're not interested in this car, then you can just leave. But it's really knowing your value that you bring to a transaction. And, as agents, we are showing our value. When we market a property, when you do analysis of what the property should be listed at and what it should sell for, and you buyers' needs and wants in their first time home, right? That's where you're providing that value because you have that market insight. And besides just the interest rate environment, we have still a shortage of supply and there's still strong demand. And the other thing that I go back to, and there's only so much land that can be built on. So there's only going to be so many houses. And people are always going to need to buy and sell real estate. So if you tough it out, and yeah, you're going to have good years, you're going to have years, you're going to have years where maybe you plateau, but during those years where you're slower or you're plateauing, that's the time to make adjustments and move and grow and learn, and take some extra classes, or maybe you teach a course, whatever it is. You read a couple new books. That's the time where you're positioning yourself for the future, when the time when the market will spring back, and it will spring back. um, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know when, but um, now it's the time to position yourself and reposition yourself.
What types of things are you working on?
I'm working on basically right now, kind of solidifying our brand and our image. As agents, not only do we have a brand of a company, right, or the brokerage that we're associated with, but we have our own individual brand. So one of the things that I'm working on for 2024 and beyond is positioning our brand here at Century 21 Forrester, and continuing to sell our value and what's our story. What's our elevator pitch? Because we do have a story, but we don't have that institutional knowledge in the head on paper. So how do we put this all down on a piece of paper and kind of let it all out and see, what is our brand? What is our strategy? What is our vision? What are our beliefs? And that's a big project I'm working on now. And in addition, like I said, I still do a lot of rentals and property management. I'm continuing to hopefully grow that segment of our business, and go into the new year optimistic about the future.
We always have to be optimistic, even when we don't want to be, right? Sometimes you're just like, oh. Want to be optimistic.
Yeah, but it's hard. It is hard, and especially if you haven't seen a downturn in this business. When you start to see the first downturn, it really, it's a wake up call. It's a reality, but it wasn't going to be that way forever. It wasn't going to be record sales and record buying and record low interest rates and record low supply with strong demand. It was just not feasible for that to last forever. So
Of course.
we're seeing it. What I believe is, you know, because I studied, and when I was at Drexel, like I said, I studied finance and econ, and theoretically, right, I've studied a lot of like the economy, how it works, the cycle of money. I'm a nerd when it comes to that stuff. I enjoy that, but usually when we say you're in a recession, you're usually in the recession right now, which I think is what we're seeing. We're feeling that pinch of a slowdown in the economy, and when we come out of it, we'll come out stronger. And again, when rates start to fall, which they will, um, things will bounce back to what I think will be a more normalized market. Because what we saw with COVID was not really normal. Pre-COVID was a normal market. It was not a crazy busy, inflated, prices, people walking, people having lines for open houses, you know, bidding wars and all that stuff that went down during COVID. But that was not really normal, in my opinion.
No, I mean, when, the Feds dropped you at the rate that came down to 2.65, how long can that last for?
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
So people didn't care how much they were paying over ask. It wasn't, today it's a different story. You have homes that are a lot less affordable at the current number.
Yeah,
And about 85% of people have mortgages under 5%, 25% of those being under 3%. So you basically would be trading your house for a house that's less expensive and for more money.
yeah, and costing you long term
So they don't,
more if you hold
people
it.
aren't interested in that. The only people that are interested right now are first time buyers. And you have your baby boomers who don't really care because they don't really owe anything on their house, a lot of them. So they can afford to make that move. And the first time buyers, if you don't own a home, Philadelphia is one of 4 cities where it's actually cheaper to buy than to rent. Only one of 4. So it is cheaper in the long run to buy if you don't own anything than it is to pay in rent right now. Rents have escalated dramatically, as you're probably aware, since you're in that marketplace.
Yeah. And again, what I always kind of seen with Philadelphia is that we don't see those swings in either direction, meaning that, in pre '08, '07, '06, '05, '03, even when the market was really, really hot, what you saw was in places like Florida and California and Texas, developing economies in the country, developing in the sense that they were growing, not that they were stagnant or behind the rest of the country. They were just growing at a lot faster pace. You saw those swings of houses go up dramatically, but when they fall dramatically. Here in Philadelphia, we've always kind of been like a slow and steady wins the race long term. Prices kind of gradually increase, and then when the market slows, they'll come down a little bit. Um, and you've seen record investment. And just to hit on your point too, Maria, is that we're still a very affordable city compared to major cities in the country. What your dollar could buy you here goes a lot farther than it does in New York, Boston, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Miami, right, Houston, Chicago. We really have a good market, a strong market. And long term, if you hold on to your investment, you're going to see a return because, again, there's only so much land, there's only so many houses. House prices have always gone up, and they'll continue to go up
They
over time.
will they will continue over time for sure. We also know, excuse me, that there's not enough inventory for that first time buyer. We're probably about 4 to 5 years short in inventory based on new household formations. So new people coming into, owning a home, whether they're renting now or living with a parent or a relative, coming together either on their own or with a partner to purchase a home, new household formation. They never owned a home before.
Yeah.
So we know that there's not enough inventory for those folks. So we know that that end of the market's going to continue to go up in pricing for the most part. Maybe some pockets, not so much, depending, location based, of course. But for the most of those are going to continue to increase.
And we have to figure out, how do we answer this question of affordability, and how do we answer the question of, and I don't have the answer today, but, and I probably never will have the answer, but, it's becoming more and more expensive to buy a home, and, how are we going to address that in the future?
Well, if pricing for land and construction is so high, you have to pay X, whatever X is, right? Unless those prices come down, the prices of the house aren't going to come down.
Yeah.
New product.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
It's pretty
And
impossible for that to happen.
yeah.
The prices have went up so much for new products. I mean, you're seeing home listed for $1 million in East Kensington. Sorry, but who would?
Yeah. No, really. I mean, yeah, I mean, I look at it from our own experience here in South Philly. I mean, years ago, when houses down here, little row homes sold for 30, 40, 50, $60,000. Now they fetch 4, 5, 6, 7, $800,000. It's, kind of mind boggling, but again, things go up over time, and real estate has always gone up, and it will continue to go up. There'll be periods where it goes down. Like I said, I don't believe that in Philadelphia, our pricing will dramatically decrease because there's historical trends here where we don't see those dips. And again, I just remain optimistic about the future. And I remain optimistic just about the city as a whole, too, because we have a strong city of neighborhoods. We have a ton of great universities. We have a ton of great hospitals and medicine. When you look at a city, and if they have the eds and meds is what they call it.
Yeah.
Two big, strong factors in the economy, which we have, which will continue to also support a stable housing market here and labor market as well.
We certainly have had the eds and meds. The one thing that I've been trying to alleviate is the brain drain, meaning leaving our great city and heading to other places.
Yeah.
Right. So that's been a long-term issue for many, many years here. We have a new sheriff mayor in town, so
Yeah.
hopefully she will do some good work. And we have a lot of leadership roles changing, so that should be helpful to us who were born and raised here our whole life.
Yeah, I'm remain optimistic and seen a lot. Yeah, I think we're heading in a direction, I believe.
Much better than this time last year.
Yeah.
At least from that perspective. I don't know from the real estate perspective. It was a difficult fall last year this time, but we're still down in units year over year.
Yeah.
The market. So, if you have a whole segment of the market, which is the move up buyer not purchasing, they're not selling their house, they're not buying a new house. It's a significant amount of sales that we don't have.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And, who can blame them? If you don't need to move, people aren't moving.
No, they're staying put. Especially if you have a 3% rate. Why would you ever let that go if you didn't absolutely have to leave?
Right. So relocation is important business to get. Did several relocations this year, just from referrals from other brokers, but moving for work and retirement.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see that, especially as prices in other cities continue to go up. Again, being that we're still very affordable. I'm also excited about the bioscience industry that's growing here in Philadelphia. I went to Drexel. I'm a little biased, but the Schuylkill Yards project there, and all the great work that Drexel and Brandywine Realty Trust want to do to attract bioscience and to build that sector of the economy right here in Philadelphia is pretty exciting.
Oh yeah, that's definitely, I'd say, a testament to some really great development. Brandywine is an amazing organization, and it's been in the works for some time. I know that it did downscale it a little bit, just because it's such a massive project, and I think it's like a 10-year project.
They were talking about it when I was there, preliminary, like in the early planning phases. But yeah, it's a long-term project. It's like building by building, they're going to kind of develop different sections of that part of the city over time.
Pretty fascinating, building over a railroad.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of the renderings, and it's going to be, when it's finally finished, it'll be really a cool development. And I think, I always say this again, it's a little cliche, but when you look at the city, right, you kind of see the progression of the city, right? It started on the Delaware city, right, Independence Hall, and the city gradually moved westward. And I think you're going to continue to see that development happen westward as the Drexel and Penn continue to grow and expand and become kind of like the hubs of the economy here. Center City will still be a prominent section, but I think it'll rival University City, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that with the Schuylkill Yards project, it's really going to mesh Center City and West Philly.
Yeah,
it's going to bring closer together because it's a little removed, that crossover that way. But as the project develops, I think it's really going to close that gap that is there right now. And they have already done work like on the pathway to get from Center City to 30th Street Station with better lighting and, more pedestrian friendly. So you'll see more people. Just like when the South Street Bridge, when they did that project. I mean, now it's crazy. There are tons of people walking, biking.
Yeah.
It was not there. That did not happen before. So that has been an amazing connection between Southwest Center City and West Philly.
And you have the investment and the major development of 30th Street. That'll help with that. And I think what you'll also see is with those areas growing, places like where I'm at, Passyunk and South Philly, Graduate Hospital, Point Breeze, the west side of Broad Street, right? All of those communities will continue to become desirable areas to live and work because you're close and accessible to those parts of the city, right? You're 25 minutes, even north of Broad, right? Fairmount, Brewery Town, we've already seen development. That 15, 20 minute, say, car ride or, 15, 20, 25 minute subway ride or bus ride to those parts of the city will become important too. And then it's also easily accessible to the train. You're also easily accessible to the airport if you need to get down to Philly International. Those areas will continue to grow as Southwest Center City and University City grows.
So lots of good stuff happening. Being optimistic, looking at the glass half full instead of half empty. Right?
Absolutely, that's the way.
We all could use a little more optimism.
Yeah, positivity.
Absolutely. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for being on The Solution. We are excited to talk with you more. We will see you in early January for our agent educational event.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Maria, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
I went on some tangents, but
it's all good.
It was all good stuff. We hit a lot of great topics.
We did. Thanks again, Mike.
Thank you, Maria.